Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible? Can you all hear me?
You are audible, ma'am.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Today we will be starting with Unit 2 of, Unit 1.2 of the first chapter only that we were doing. In the last class, we discussed how to introduce yourself and how to have a conversation, and what is important to keep in mind when you start having a dialogue, and how you should conduct yourself, how you should introduce yourself to create the right to create the right impression, and so that the other person is interested in talking to you. Now today we will see how we how an interview is done, because the reason, like I said, we are doing English fluency so that you guys can have you guys can use English as a language for practical purposes. And interviews is definitely one of the most practical purposes out there. We all have to appear for interviews for our jobs, for admissions, for various different reasons. So today we will be looking at interviews. So before we start with what is in the book, we are going to discuss a small PPT that I made, and over there we will talk about what is an interview, how to conduct yourself in an interview, etc. Then we will cover what is in the book. So this is what we are going to cover in today's class. And at the end of the class, after I'm done teaching, I will share the link of the PPT of the previous class and the PPT of this class. So you can download, in case you don't find, in case the screen is not visible or you have some problem of connectivity, you can download this PPT from the link itself. I don't know whether you can download it, but I think you can see it. So you can see the PPT from the link that I will share. Okay, so now let us begin with the PPT. So today, like I said, we'll be covering Unit 1.2, which is interviews. And the things we will discuss is what is an interview, the different kinds of interview, and the key points to remember while conducting an interview. So let us begin first with what is an interview. Now, interviews are formal meetings where someone is asked questions in order to find out more about the person. So, we all have been giving interviews all our lives. When we were kids and we were admitted in school, we gave an interview even then when we were like in nursery, KG. uh, Even then we had to give an interview to the principal, or when we got admitted, say, to junior school or middle school, even then we had to go through interviews. Now what is the purpose of this interview? The purpose of this interview is to uh, because interviews are usually formal, the purpose behind it is to get to know the person whom you are interviewing. In like a school or in a college or at a job place, it is important for the person who is hiring you or who is admitting you to their institution to know whom they are admitting, right? So that is why an interview is important. But obviously interviews are only not job and academic based. You have interviews with journalists, where they interview politicians, entertainers, actors, sports persons, etc., on various issues and various situations. So, in that case, the idea of the journalist and the person they are interviewing is not so much so that the journalist can personally know this person, but so that the world can know this person, so that they can make a news out of this and share it with a larger group of people. So through the journalists who take an interview, say, of the prime minister, or through the journalist taking an interview of, say, a sports person, we find out when we read that interview or watch that interview on television, we find out more about that person the journalist is interviewing. So, so here we come across. So, what are the various kinds of interview then? One is for a job or for admission into an academic institution, where we have a face-to-face interview so that the person admitting us knows whom they are admitting or hiring. Number two, when a journalist is trying to when a journalist interviews a famous personality on various issues to bring it to the world, to spread it to the world. So that is the second type of interview. And the third type of interview is, say, like a police interview or an interrogation, where a police is asking people about a certain crime that has happened. Say you were traveling on the metro and your wallet got stolen. So you go to the police station to report this crime that has happened about your stolen wallet. So the police will interview, ask you certain questions, and you will give in your details. And then say you say that I saw this person wearing this particular thing, and he got down at say he got down at this particular station, and you followed that person, and etc., etc. So if the police tracks down that person, then the police is going to interview that person about the crime. It's going to ask questions about whatever your allegations are, whatever you are saying has happened to you. So that is a third kind of interview. So to put it short, what is an interview? It is a formal meeting where someone asks questions in order to find out about the person, about the situation, about the things related to a particular issue. So an interview usually has a goal. So if it's for an admission, then the goal is whether you are suitable for the institution you're trying to get admission into. If it's for a job, the interviewer is trying to see if you are suitable for the job that you have applied for. If it's a journalist, then the purpose is the various issues as to why they are, like the various issues on which they are interviewing these personalities. For, say, politicians, say, like right now, with the COVID situation, if a journalist interviews like the prime minister, asking what are the measures that are being taken, or say any other politician, say even a local government body, so that the public knows what the government is doing in this particular situation. Or say India won a particular tournament in cricket. So the journalist interviews Virat Kohli and asks various questions about that particular tournament. So the idea is for you to get to know more about the person or the issues. And say, like the police interview, like I said, the police interview is obviously a formal situation where the police is trying to find out more about the crime and the allegation that has taken place. That this is basically what an interview is, or a situation of an interview is. Now, uh, we will, before we jump into the format of an interview, let's just see what is there in the book. Just 1 minute, I'll share while we are at it. Okay, so like I said, let's see what is there in the book, what is there in the study material about interviews. So as you can as soon as I've already told you what an interview is. So they have given you an activity, right? interested in, and just see how a journalist conducts an interview with a famous personality. So now let's see what an interview conversation where one person asks questions and the other provides answers, something that we have already discussed. In traditional interviews, the journalist prepares the list of questions beforehand after doing a thorough research on the celebrity's background, personal life, awards, future projects, and achievements. After reading some interviews, you will observe that there are many questions that keep reappearing. Okay, so now what your study material has done is it has started with the interviews that journalists conduct on famous personalities. And the reason for this is that that is the most common form of interview format that we are used to or is available to us. So every other day, if you look up in the newspaper or even if you go online and you just Google something, you will find multiple interviews on the people we are interested in or the issues that are happening. So I think keeping that in mind, this is the most, this is like this is the most rapid or the most available form of interview. Now, what they have said is that in traditional interviews, the journalist prepares a list of questions beforehand, which is obvious because when you are conducting an interview, say with a celebrity, they are bound by time, right? So you have to book an appointment with them wherein they agree that they will come for this particular interview. So in that time, it is very difficult if you have not done your research. So as a journalist, your job is to do research on the person you are going to be interviewing, so that once whenever the meeting starts, you don't waste your time and you don't ask bad questions. So your research, your study into the questions that you form will cater to what is important, what the issues are, what your readers will probably want to know, what your viewers are interested in. So you are, as a journalist, you're trying to maintain a lot of things. You're trying to bring uh, valuable conversation and opinion out of the person you are interviewing. The idea is to, the idea is not to just be like, hi, hello, how are you? Because the main um, aim of an interview is to let the other person like is to the main aim of an interview is to uh, allow the person being interviewed to speak about the relevant details about their life, because all of us have so much going on in our lives which is not important to everyone. Of course it is important to us, but it's not important to the others who are not related to our personal life. The idea is to ask them about the things that are relevant to us. Say, for example, um, I know you guys are still young, but you are Gen Z, so I am assuming you guys are uh, very into watching Netflix. So this movie that recently came up, Don't Look Up. I don't know if anyone of you have watched it. So the movie is on climate crisis and the environment. And say when an interviewer or a journalist uh, interviews the actors from that movie, like Leonardo DiCaprio, he is an actor in that movie. He is the lead actor in that movie. And if you know anything about him, you would know that he's associated with the climate crisis, and he does a lot for the climate crisis in general. Like he is a brand ambassador of of a lot of environmental causes. So when the interviewer, if the journalist has not done this research, they will not be able to ask Leonardo the he will not they will not be able to ask Leonardo the relevant questions regarding this movie and the larger purpose of this movie in general. So that will just waste time and will and the journalist will have an interview that's not worth uh, viewers or that's not worth readers, and it will also waste the actor's time. So in that case, it is important that the journalist obviously does his research and does his or her research and then conducts the interview so that it is a proper good interview. Now they have given you some examples of how, like what are the questions that you can ask. So I think before we do this, it is important to say, look at the format of interview. 1 minute. Can you see this? Sure. 1 minute. Just 1 minute. Okay. Uh, so let's look at the format of an interview. Now, in most interviews, there are some exceptions, obviously, especially police interviews, like I said, because it is directed to a very particular reason. Some except for certain police interviews, the format of an interview, or what is the path that you should be following while you are interviewing a person, kind of is similar. So first is introduction, which is why we covered that bit in the last class. So you ask the person whom you are interviewing to introduce themselves. It is irrespective of whether you are going to a school for admission, whether you're going to a college for admission, whether you're going to a job interview, or whether a journalist is interviewing a personality. You, the first thing you do is you ask the person to introduce themselves. Once you do that, then the general idea is you will ask the questions and the interviewee will answer. Obviously, the interviewee can have some questions, but this mostly happens, say, in job interviews, where even as an interviewee, you have the right to ask certain questions to the people who might hire you. So you might have asked them that what are the company goals, or what is the aim of the company in 5 years, and some questions for your own curiosity after your interview is over. But the main idea is that the interviewer asks the questions and the interviewee answers. So, what are the things that you are going to try to know through the interview? You will try to know this person, like I said, that is the whole aim of the interview, is to know the person. And then you will ask about interesting details. You will move to the main topic of the interview. So the main topic will obviously vary depending on the interview that you are in. So it can be, if it's for a job, the interview will, the main body of the interview will surround the requirements for the job, right? So the interviewee will be asking you questions about will be asking you questions about the job itself. And I mean the interviewer, sorry. The interviewer will be asking you questions about the job itself, and you will be answering questions related to that. And then maybe in the end, they might ask you some personal details about why you decided to take up this job, or why are you interested in this job, or why did you choose this career. And even like, when a journalist is taking an interview, they can ask about some personal other details that are not there in the interview otherwise. So an interview usually starts with introductions, then it goes on to the main topic, and then in the conclusion, you ask some questions that are not directly related to the topic, but it gives you a larger insight about that person, or a larger view about that person. So this is the basic format. Now let's see what they have in the book. 1 minute. One minute, guys. Excuse me, sorry. Okay. Uh, okay. Yeah. So now let us see the kind of questions that they have asked you, they have suggested. As for everyone asking for the book, I am teaching from the study material, which you'll find on the SOL website itself under the drop-down study materials. I will share this link with you as well, but I think it's better if you download it from the website itself. Uh, if there are some suggested readings that you can find, like the name is given and everything, so you can find it, but they are not necessary for you to buy. So if you find it online, you can obviously follow it. See, the general idea of the English fluency examination is also that the book is not as important. It is about how you apply what you're being taught practically. So now I'm teaching you what is an interview. Obviously, they won't ask you a question, what is an interview? They will probably ask you a question. They will give you like an activity, like the activity question that you did in the last class. Remember? Write a conversation between two friends who have met after many years. So they will give you questions like that, questions that are not directly from the material of the book, but you should know how to write it. You should know how to write that conversation. You should know how to write an interview where you are the interviewer and the interviewee. So um, they'll tell you, for example, you're a journalist of a certain newspaper. You have to interview this sports person. So you will be pretending to be the journalist as well as the sports person, and you will write the whole interview. That is how your exams are done. So it's not important what is inside the book as much as how much you can apply it to the other things, like apply it practically. The idea of English fluency, like I said, is to practically help you to use English as a language. So what you need is for that what you need is to be able to to be able to do these things in real life. So that is the idea of the exam. Anyway, let us see the examples of the questions that are given. So like I said, you start with introducing yourself. So look at the first question. Tell us about yourself. What did you decide? When did you decide to take up acting or singing as a career? So the first example, like I said, is given between a journalist and a personality. So this is like the first question that you can ask, like, tell us something about yourself, introduce yourself. And then you talk about, you ask them, why did you decide to take this up as a career? What interested you? And then you ask, did you act in school? Was it like something you took up from childhood? And then you ask, how did you find the living in Mumbai after Patna? Like after moving from Patna, how did you find the living? Even though this is a very personal question, which I think you shouldn't be asking immediately. You can ask it later if it comes up, but it's a very personal question. And they have given you examples about questions about work, upcoming projects, achievements, like your team won the semi-final against New Zealand. How does it feel? Your movie 3 is releasing this Friday. Are you nervous? So these are questions that you can also ask depending on the situation that you're interviewing. Then there are some leisure questions like, how do you like to relax after work? What is your favorite holiday destination? So there are some questions that you can just play in, which are not directly related to the issue, but you can just play into it so that you get to know the person better. Nowadays, there's hardly any interview where celebrities are not asked about how they handle negative and critical comments on social media. Here are some questions that are frequently asked. How do you respond to negative comments online? Do trolls bother you? We heard that you now have more than 5 million followers on Instagram. How does it feel? Is it true that you talk to all your fans on Twitter? So some social media question, because we all know um, how everyone is into social media now. All these questions are from real interviews, but if you're going to write questions and answers for an imaginary one, remember few things. Now I think this is where it is important. Like this is an important bit. Because like I said, for your exam, you will be having to write the interview, like an imaginary interview where you will be playing the role of both the interviewer as well as the interviewee. There are few things that you should keep in mind. What are the few things? Be relevant. You will not ask a cricketer if he liked to sing as a child. This I have been saying. The example I gave of a journalist interviewing Leonardo DiCaprio, right? Be relevant. Stick to why you are interviewing this person. You're not interviewing this person just because you feel like it, right? There's a reason why you're interviewing this person. So the idea is that you stick to the topic and you be relevant. You talk about the things that are important. Be sensitive. Do not ask questions that could offend or hurt anyone. So obviously you're supposed to be sensitive, you're supposed to be kind, you're not supposed to be over intrusive. You're not supposed to force people into answering some awkward questions. Just 1 minute. I'll share the link. I'll share the link after the teaching. I'll share all the links. Getting back to what I was saying. So the idea is to be relevant. A. B is to be sensitive. So do not be rude. Do not ask personal questions. If someone is not willing to answer something, do not force them. Do not be offensive. Do not question people's class, religion, and questions that people are not uh, their personal relationships, like questions that people are not very keen on answering to the public. It's better to be sensitive. Some journalists are very rude and they do ask questions that are not really nice, but it's not something that one should do. Avoid controversial topics like opinions on current political or religious reasons. Exactly what I said. Do not ask questions about their politics, about their religion, things that are not something that they would want to discuss with anybody. These are personal things to everybody. Try to frame the question that brings out the human side of the celebrity, their innermost thoughts. So this is very important, especially when you're interviewing like a famous personality. It's important to make them uh, treat them like human beings rather than some alien exotic figure and exoticize them for the public. It is better to keep their human side so that everybody can relate to them, so that people can find some reality in it. That will make the interview more humane, and this is a very important thing. And to keep it light, which means that not to make it very obviously depends on the issue. It's like climate crisis and the environment is very serious issue, so you can't keep it light in that case. But depending on the issue or depending on the situation, you should judge for yourself, be the judge for yourself, what is better, what approach is better, whether it is better to keep it light, whether it is better to just be just talk about the serious issues. This is obviously very subjective. Now, almost all interviews have some questions that are fun, like what is your favorite junk food? Tell us something about yourself that nobody knows. What is your favorite outfit at home? Would you like to tell us an embarrassing incident? So these are like questions that you ask sometimes just for fun, so that you can give like these little bits of details out to the public, which might make them more interested in reading the interview. So they have given you an example of an interview with Akshay Kumar, where somebody asked him what would we find in your fridge right now, and he answered saying crates of thumbs up. And how many pairs of blue jeans do you have? And he was just like 25 pairs, which personally I think is too much. But anyway, then they asked him where did you spend last summer, and he said Dubai and Goa. So these questions which are not very personal but not very professional either, like something that's light and easy. And then they have given you another excerpt from an interview with Smriti Mandhana, the captain of the Indian women's cricket team, where they asked her, uh, when did you realize you wanted to turn your passion for cricket into your profession? You were part of the Indian team that played the 2017 Women's Cricket World Cup. Have you noticed changes in support of women's cricket since? So these are deep issues, but you're talking about the issue. You are talking about the main reason for the interview. But again, see, they did ask questions that are light, like what do you do on your off day? your favorite junk food, etc., etc. So it's not only like the difficult issues, but it is also some questions that keep the situation light. Now, for your practice, there's obviously an activity which I would suggest that all of you do, because like I said, that you have to prepare to write an imaginary interview in the exam. That is what the questions usually are. That is what the format usually is. So here the activity that they have given you is, you're the reporter for a sports magazine. Interview a budding sports star for your magazine. Ask 10 questions that he or she answers. So you can just pretend to be like a journalist of a sports magazine, and you ask another sports star, a budding sports star, which means like someone who is just coming up, who is on the rise, who is not obviously absolutely established, say like a younger Virat Kohli. Not the Virat Kohli he is now, but a younger version of him. And you ask him 10 questions. So this is like a good practice exercise that you can do for the first type of interview, like for one of the types of interview that we discussed. Now let us move to an important bit that you will definitely need in your practical life, which is formal interview. Now, what is a formal interview? The types of questions listed so far would not be suitable if you're going to interview a successful entrepreneur or political candidate. You would not ask them questions like what is your favorite junk food, or the interview. In such interviews, the questions will be serious and sometimes technical. But again, this I think depends on the situation itself. So what questions have they suggested? How did you get the idea to start this business? How many employees do you have at present? What are your company goals? What are some of the mistakes you wish you could have avoided? What are the qualities of a good leader? If you had just one piece of advice for someone, what would it be? So these are like the questions that you can ask like in a serious interview. The questions would be related, sorry, the questions would be related to their professional lives, um, and it would not have that many personal details. Now, say interview for jobs, the one that I was talking about, which obviously all of us need and will need in our lives till we are planning to have, like till we continue to work with in our respective professions. Excuse me. Okay, so interview for jobs. Now, everyone has to face an interview for a job at some stage. And even when they want to change jobs, like I said, we have to continue facing these interviews for most of our lives. Now, some of the questions that you can be asked, like by the committee, they have given you a list. But like I said, the idea is wherever you go to apply, like wherever you have applied for a job, the idea is for the recruiter or the interviewer to see if you are a perfect candidate for the job or not. So what are the questions they ask you? What is your educational background? Why did you select this company? Are you planning to study further in the future? Tell us about yourself. What are your strengths and weaknesses? What were your responsibilities in the last job? Why should we hire you? What is your salary in the previous organization? Now, the last question is important so that if they hire you, they know what is your expectation that you expect them to pay and what is like the limit. As many of you guessed, the types of questions being asked would depend on the job and the candidate. Here is an example of a candidate appearing for an interview for a post of an elementary school teacher. When the candidate enters the room, there would be 2 or 3 people who would interview him or her. All of them would have read her CV. So, like they said, we will discuss what is a CV in the next class. So, today we'll just see the interview. Let's see the example that they have given us. Come on in, Lakshmi, please be seated. Lakshmi says, good morning, everyone. I see that you have applied for a post of the teacher in the Hindi department. Yes, madam, that is right. You have taught in 2 schools before applying here. Why did you leave those jobs? They were both temporary positions. I was kept as a substitute for teachers who were on leave. I'm now looking for a permanent post in a reputed school. Have you thought about studying further? Yes, I have. I want to join MA Hindi course at IGNOU next year. How will you manage if you start teaching here? The classes are held on Sundays, so it won't be a problem. If I teach here, I won't allow my studies to disturb my work. So as you can see, after they talk about very briefly about Lakshmi, they immediately come to the matter of the job, right? So they move from the introduction to the main topic and reason for the interview, which I was telling you. Then they ask you questions. Then they ask you questions about, are you familiar with the curriculum? How would you handle children if they get naughty? Would you agree to put in extra time for school functions? So, like, you ask questions that are related to the job that you are hiring this person for. And this is very important for all of us, even in our practical lives. And they have again given you another exercise, which again I think you should be doing, which is to prepare 10 questions and answers for the interview of a hotel management graduate applying for the job as an assistant manager in a hotel. So you will pretend to be this hotel management graduate student as well as the person hiring the graduate. So you have two exercises that you can do. One is uh, one is to pretend to be a journalist and take an interview of a sports person. Two is pretend to be a graduate, like a student applying for a job, and the person who is hiring that student. So this is basically what interview is. Now, since we do still have some time, so I will start this, but obviously we'll not finish the next part, which is 1.3, preparing a CV. We won't be finishing this in this class because in the next class, I will discuss with you how you can write a CV and what are the things like the format of a CV, etc. So let us just start and see what a CV is. Now, when we talk about introducing yourself, when we talk about going for interviews, when we talk about these various things, if you go for an interview, the person, especially for a job, the person is going to hire you on the basis of something, right? They don't know you, so you can't randomly just be like, hello, I'm here for an interview. How do they know that you are even a legitimate person? So you create this CV where you write all your details, what you have studied, where you have passed from, what are the extracurricular activities you can do, what are your hobbies, etc. So that they have an idea about who you are as a person. And that makes you a legitimate person. And whether at all you feel like you fit this bill of being able to do the job. Just 1 minute. Hello, am I audible? All the WhatsApp group people, I don't have any of your numbers. So if you create a WhatsApp group and you want me to be a part of it, you send it to me in the chat box of the Microsoft, like of the Teams, uh, and I will join that group. I don't have anyone's number, so I can't create a group, and it's too much work, so I am not going to create a group. If you guys create a group, I will just join if you need my help. I said this even in the last class. Um, what other? Yeah, yes, CV as in resume. That is what we are talking about. Okay, let's get back. Okay, so what is a CV? CV is a short Latin phrase for curriculum vitae, meaning course of life. A CV is a 2 or 3 page long document that summarizes your educational qualifications, work experiences, and other achievements. It is attached to job applications, internships, or scholarships and submitted to the administrative lead of the administrative head of the organization or institution. In our country, the word resume is also used to describe such a document. The only difference between them is that of length. Whereas a resume is one or at most 2 pages long, a CV is much longer because it includes more detailed information. So whoever asked the question whether a CV is a resume, you have your answer right here. It is a resume, but a CV is a more detailed version of the resume. A resume is more like a biodata, where you just write everything in short. But in CV, in the CV you describe everything that you are writing. That is the uh, that is like the main difference between the two. Now let's see. What do you include in a CV? Your personal information, your educational information. In your personal information, you have name, age, contact details. Educational, you have your school, college, professional courses, special skills. Then, so first, the most important thing is to let the person know who you are, which is why your personal information. Contact details are very important for CV because if you are selected for the job, this is what they're going to see to contact you and let you know that you have been selected for the job. So your contact details and your name, like these things are very, very important. Now then educational qualifications. Then you talk about your school, college, what courses you have done, etc. Where you have done it from, how much you scored, if you topped, what were you best at, etc. etc. Then you write about your special skills. So a lot of people have some extra skills like languages they know, if they have done a computer course or they know something that's interesting. Then you write about your achievements, all the awards you have won, scholarships, prizes, etc. etc. Then you write about your work experience, about where you have worked in the past, if you were interning somewhere, if you have gone to a summer school, like any small thing also matters. And finally, you write your extracurriculars, like some hobbies that you have, um, talent that you have, or you think you have, that just makes you a more rounded and interesting person. So they have given you like an example of a CV, as you can see. They started with the personal details, as it was said, the name, address, phone number, email ID. The contact details, as you can see, are very important. Then they have something called the career objective. What is the career objective? You are trying to, what is exactly your career objective? Like, what do you see yourself doing in life? So, her career objective, Lakshmi Godbas, uh, is to find a position as a primary school teacher in a progressive school that allows teachers to be creative with the syllabus. So she wants to be a primary school teacher at a school that gives her a lot of freedom to teach the kids the way she wants to. Then she has written her educational qualification. So usually, as you can see, 12th is written in the last row, uh, and the first is like, so you usually write it in descending order, like your highest degree comes first. So she wrote her B.Ed, then she wrote her BA honors, and then she wrote her class 12th. And you write where you have studied from, the year you have passed out, and the marks that you have obtained. Then she wrote her work experience, and then she wrote the achievements that she got. She was second. She held a second position in BA honors Hindi in Delhi University, and then she gave some personal details. Like she wrote her date of birth, her gender, marital status, the languages she knows, and then she wrote her extracurricular activities, what she likes to do, and the references. Now, references is not important everywhere, depends on the job that you are applying for, whether you will be requiring references or not. Now, when you look at this sample of a CV, you can see that you have your personal details that are absolutely important. You have your educational qualifications that are the second most important thing. She has written her work achievements, I mean work experience. Then she has written her achievements. Finally, she has given some more details about herself and what she likes to do. So this makes her a whole-rounded person that that she like that gives her some legitimacy. So this is how much we will be discussing today. Next class we will be doing more we'll be doing more of it. Now I will just share the links with you and you can ask me any questions that you have regarding whatever we covered in class today. If you want me to repeat something, discuss something, that's what we can do. I'll just share the links first. Where did you get this question? Who are refugees? Like, how is this related? Anyway, I'm just going to share the link first. I have no idea why I can't copy the link. There's some problem. I have no idea why I can't copy the link. Why I can't publish it. I'm not getting any copy paste option. There are no notes really, Nishtha. Like there are no notes because like I said, the exam is based on what you're learning in class. So you will have to write an interview on your own. You will have to know how to make a CV on your own. You will have to know how to have a dialogue on your own. So the class is just to tell you how to do it. You have to apply it to the questions that are asked for you in the exam. The type of achievement that you should be writing in your CV are usually achievements that mean something. Like say, if you're a very good sports person, then obviously it is a talent that you have. So that is an achievement you can mention. Or if you stood first in, if you came, like if you were a rank holder in your class 10th or class 12th, or if you had a position in college, then these are achievements that you can write. Or say you're very good at writing poetry and you have won, say, an international award. So that is an achievement that you want people to know about. So these are achievements that you can obviously mention in your CV. I had been sharing my screen, but yeah, I know. I think that you can't, like, I have to type out the link, but obviously I can't do that. The copy paste option is not coming. So I don't know whether it's a glitch or it's just something. But obviously I'll try again or I'll ask some other people. There's no need to for me to share my screen and like I know how to do it. It's just not showing. Uh, okay. I don't know when your exams are right now, but obviously it will be in maybe in March after your semester is over. You have classes till Feb, like till the end of Feb, so obviously not before that. I'm getting so many WhatsApp group, like I don't know which one to join. One minute, I'm trying to join. Okay, maybe I'll just copy the link and my God, I don't know why this is happening. Give me a minute. It would be really nice if someone can just send me the link on the chat, like on the Microsoft chat, because it's creating a problem right now. Why are you sharing addresses here? Okay, do you have any questions regarding the class, regarding anything that you haven't understood, anything that you want me to discuss again? Any class related questions about interviews, CV, what we did in the first class? Anyone with any questions? I do not know why the copy paste link is not working. It's not working even for the announcement that I'm trying to make. It's not working when I'm trying to copy the link for the WhatsApp. So I think there's some problem. If someone can just send it in the Teams chat separately, I will join. Or I'll just try to figure out this problem. So Teams often is very glitchy. It gives some problems. So that actually becomes an issue. But I will still try to see what's going on. Uh, I am not sure about the paper code, Deepak. I am assuming then none of you have any questions regarding class. No one has any questions. Okay then, since you have no questions regarding class, I'll see you the next class. Uh, uh, I think it is in the student dashboard in your Microsoft account, Ayush. That is what I have been told, that the recorded lectures go to the student dashboard. So you can check the student dashboard. Next class is next Friday, I think, on the 14th. 14th is next Friday, I guess. Confirm the date once you have the list. Uh, I think Friday and Sunday are my classes. If there's any other day, you will know. Okay. I don't know where you're coming with these questions. Whoever is with the name anonymous, refugees, hosting countries, why are you asking these unrelated questions? Good afternoon, everyone. People again. I'll meet you all next Friday. Have a good
Class what, ma'am?